myself, Erika Bolon, and also Jeff Skinner, who was, hello.
Hello.
And we're going to introduce each ourselves a bit better later, but let's just get started with the webinar now. So we are recording this webinar, and we will make the presentation available on the website, so you don't have to, you know, there's no need to take notes or anything. Just you will find all this information that you see and that we talk about on the website soon after the webinar. The way we structure the webinar today, there will be, is divided in 3 parts. In the first part, we're going to give you an introduction of the Health Tech Challenge, the 2020 Health Tech Challenge. We will address some of the questions you submitted during the registration, and we're going to give you some practical tips for the application. The second part will be run by Jeff Skinner, and it's a workshop on how to conceive and develop an idea, an entrepreneurial idea. Finally, we will leave time for Q&A session. So if you have any question, you can press on the Q&A button, share it with us, and we're going to answer live. So let's start. Let's start with the first part. And on the way the webinar works, as I was saying before, there is a Q&A button that you can press. You can submit any question you may have. Also, if you want to talk, there's the raise your hand button, and it should be on the lower right. So just raise your hand. We will give you the right to talk and unmute you, so we can have a live conversation as well. Okay, so let's introduce us. So well, okay. First, myself, I'm Erika. I'm part of the organizing team and doing the marketing piece. And Bolon here is leading the effort in organizing basically everything of this year edition of the Health Tech Challenge. Most importantly, we have here today Jeff. Jeff is the Executive Director of the Institute of Innovation and Entrepreneurship here at the London Business School, and is basically helping all the LBS faculty with any activity that is related to the entrepreneurship and entrepreneurial world. He teaches several courses here at the schools. He co-founded more than 30 technology-based spin-outs, collectively raising more than 30 million pounds in first round, and is deeply involved with the technology commercialization. Yes. So, what is the Health Tech Challenge? And Bono, if you want to explain us and give us your view.
So we basically talk about this like in our previous marketing materials, but what we want to emphasize here is really about a business idea competition, like early stage ideas coming from the innovations, research-based evidence, and you wanted to put these ideas into like commercialization plans and want to grow your business. So it's really a combination of technology and entrepreneurship. So the theme of this year is like digital technology in health, because we think that digitalization is really the big trend, and we want to, you know, lead the conversation in those space.
And what are the participants? Like, who can participate to the Health Tech Challenge, and what's the team composition?
Yeah, so basically, as it's written here, like we need at least 2 people to form a team, and 1 person at least needs to be a student or like postgraduate researchers right now. So just to address the one like questions I received in the past. So can I kind of like form a team with people from different institutions? Yes, you can, obviously, as long as those people are from students, it should be fine. So here we also put 2 profiles from the past couple of years. Like a typical profile looks like someone from a PhD program at a university, or like a postgraduate researcher at a hospital and institution, something like that. So it's not limited to these profiles, but just want to give you a gist of how the past participants usually look like.
And it's not limited to the UK.
Yeah, it's not limited to UK actually. I should have put somewhere someone from US or somewhere, but basically
And these are leaders of the teams, aren't they? And clearly
Right,
there've been several people involved in the teams.
Okay, so we don't have any limitations on geography, basically. Anywhere you are, you can basically participate. Yeah, you came from Russia, apparently. Yeah, Russians are welcome.
You're very welcome.
90% of the students of this school are from somewhere other than the UK, so we're truly international.
Yeah. Okay. Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so key dates and periods. So like save your date and hold your calendar for these super important deadlines. And starting March the 2nd. So March the 2nd is the day where we close the application. So by that date, you should go to the website and submit the application that is made of a video and a presentation. And we are gonna announce the finalist teams by mid-March. After that, there will be a period from late March until end of May, more or less. That will be the mentorship period where you will be able to refine your presentation, prepare the pitch, and then you will come here to London for the final presentation on May 26th.
Just a little bit on this mentorship period. So basically, every year we invite a wide variety of background of people who are really experienced in health tech space and being a mentor of the finalist team for like 3 months something. During the 3 months, you have a weekly meeting or like bi-weekly meeting with your mentor. You discuss your business proposals, ranging from like ideas generation all the way to how to like beautify, polish your presentation, that sort of thing. So it's really an in-depth coaching period for everyone. Okay, so I think we covered a little bit questions just now. Yeah, we can definitely form. Just hold on a second. Let me just go through all these questions before I address some of the new Q&A. So we can form teams with members from different institutions. Obviously, this is team play thing, so you can't form a one-man team.
And it's even more than that, that we welcome diverse teams. So, if you have somebody from a business school commercial design and somebody who is coming from a more deep tech legal physics department within a university, that's fantastic, because we're looking for a multidisciplinary teams here. They're the ones that usually do that.
Yeah.
Right. It doesn't have to be UK based. And okay, we also received this question about ESS or Entrepreneurial Summer School. So this is part of the final prize. And someone asked us whether it is compulsory to join Entrepreneurial Summer School if you become the winner. Well, obviously,
no.
No.
We want people on this course who want to be here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Though it's fantastic. So
yeah, it's a great program. Many people, we received like 200, 300 applications every year. Yeah, we only selected by 50 to 60 people. Anyway.
And that's the one, obviously, for one member of the team to come.
Okay.
Yeah. So let's answer a couple of questions.
So already accepted to Launchpad. Yes, you can definitely apply for both Launchpad and HTC. Yeah, we definitely welcome. And next one is, can there be a participations in teams that already come from business that explores new directions in their business? We don't say no to people who are doing multiple things at this moment. I think that what you're saying.
With business, you mean company?
Like already working in companies, is that what you mean?
I mean, this is meant for an early stage businesses or early stage ideas. So anything that's too well developed, this really isn't for. This really isn't for you. We're looking to promote initiatives and novel technologies from the research base. But of course, many companies have fantastic research bases as well.
Okay.
Okay, so what is expected from the teams for the application?
Yeah, so basically you need to submit us like a slide deck of 6 slides and then 2 minutes of video. So we received some inquiries about the video and how does it look like. So basically it could be anything really. It could be you talking in front of a camera for 2 minutes, or you could create some more vivid animations or even some like illustration of your own products, things like that. We don't want to limit your creativity, and just really depending on how you want to make this look like.
So how do teams qualify for the final round? So basically, what are the judging criteria? And I think here, Jeff, you might help.
Yeah. We're looking here for, I mean, how it is evaluated. We pull together at the school a panel, as we say, of experts, consultants, faculty members who do that sifting with you, the organisers. And then, you know, we're looking, as I said, for novelty. And what we don't want to see is, you know, an idea that has been seen many times before. So this is a technology that you have been developing because you've seen an unmet need. So you know, that points to this being novel in some form or another. We wanted to have impact in the healthcare arena. That doesn't mean necessarily that it has to be for a sort of some kind of blockbuster, or you know, it can be for a fairly narrow indication, but that's fine. But we do want to see its impact, and as later as we go on, we'll say that we'll want to see for you to explain who it's going to impact. And then, I mean, a major part of this is moving beyond the technology itself and beginning to form ideas on what you're going to do in order to get this into the marketplace, what the commercial plan is. And backing up that is the team expertise skills. You know, we don't want a team that is purely from a technical base. We want to see people who come from various other backgrounds, because, you know, as once said, if individuals don't scale, it's teams that scale, and we want to see a team of a number of people here who bring the complementary skills.
Right. So even if you are from research backgrounds, you need to show that you have the entrepreneurial spirit, and you know, you think outside just pure research. I mean, that's something we're looking for.
Then, exactly. So next question. So what happens after the qualification for the final?
Yeah. I think we touched a little bit upon the logistic part. So basically, you'll be contacted about details and moving to next round. You get mentorship period for 3 months, and then basically you just develop your ideas and ready for the pitch.
And finally, how should you prepare for the final deliverable?
Right. I mean, at this stage, you don't really have to worry too much about the final day, to be honest. But just to give you a snapshot of what it looks like in the final day. So we have like 30 minutes of presentation in front of a panel of judges, and then you'll be like answering questions from them. So then you take a break for like a couple of hours and try to brush up your ideas and the presentation. And in the evening, you have a 5 minutes chance to really do a pitch in front of not only judges but also a wide audience of people coming from everywhere.
Right.
Yeah.
And just to give you an idea on what we mean with the HCC audience, there will be students from the business schools. There will be people working in startups. There will be VCs.
Right.
So it's a very diverse public, and also it's a very good stage to be and like to you know, to be able to pitch your idea to this kind of public, so that you can also receive like valuable feedback from you know,
general
people
audience,
from, exactly, general audience, and people from very diverse backgrounds. Okay, so now we would like to start the next part, which is basically a workshop with Jeff on idea generation. So how you should approach it, how you should think about it, and how you can present.
It's a pleasure to be able to do this. I see we're a little bit ahead of time as well, so I won't gallop through this. And happy to take questions as we go. I can see the screen of questions, so I can do that in real time. So, you know, where do good ideas come from? We're kind of assuming that you have the germ of an idea already. You know, if you really haven't got that idea, then there are there's one particular fantastic TED talk you can look at from Steve Johnson. It's referred to down here, where he talks about where entrepreneurs get ideas from. And the surprising thing to me when I observed what he said is that it's very rarely a light bulb moment. It's much more a slow hunch. These ideas evolve over time in your head, sometimes maybe a year to 18 months in this sort of gestation period. And so we're kind of assuming that if you're going to be applying for this this challenge, you're going to have an idea already. I mean, at least the idea that this is a technology, and if it's a healthcare technology, you've probably been developing it for a particular application already, and those two things together, you've identified that unmet clinical need, and you're developing or combining the technologies to create a solution to meet that need. But we're kind of assuming that's where you are at the moment, and indeed the purpose of this competition, this challenge, is to encourage those people who have been thinking mostly about the technical development so far, and we're encouraging them to think about, how would I turn this into a viable business, move to that next step of commercial development. But generally, we are expecting the technology to be the focus of your energy at the moment, and this challenge to move you on. Because you've often not framed the opportunity as a business. I mean, I was a PhD student myself once, and I was deep into the technology, and I'd never really thought about this as a business. I always thought that was something that somebody else did once I'd fully developed the technology. But I soon realized that actually you have to, as a scientist, be involved in this, at least at the early stage, in order to translate it into the state where those who develop that commercial potential are going to pick it up. So, ultimately then I've seen so many cases where the technology was viable, but the students, the developers of the technology really haven't been thinking about this as a business. And ultimately it was the commercial viability that proved non-viable, rather than the technology itself, which always seemed to me to be a tragedy. And the antidote to that tragedy is, of course, the healthcare challenge. So if we move on. So I think these are the steps. I mean, I think to begin with, you identify all the things that you're assuming are going to go right for the business to succeed. And this goes all the way from the end user really needing this, but all the decision makers. And in healthcare, there are many decision makers who sort of get in the way of you dealing directly with the patient. And those decision makers, but also very likely companies, the ones who are going to invest in your idea to take it to market. And all these kind of ducks have to fall in line if it's going to be a successful and viable business, as opposed to a successful and viable technology. And so we move on to how investors think. Your first customer to any new technology that requires investment, as yours will be some sort of third-party investor, whether this is a company that wants to license what you've got, or whether it's going to be an independent investor who's going to invest in your spin-out. So the way we think here is, if they're the customer, then think from the perspective of that customer. If they see your idea, what will they be thinking? And what weaknesses will they perceive in your proposition? Now, there's a fantastic framework developed to guide you through this process by a good colleague of mine, John Mullins. There's a reference to it at the bottom here, the New Business Road Test. And he identified through a whole pile of research where he went out and asked investors. He said, what is it that worries you about these series of propositions? And he found that it amounted to basically 7 worries. The same 7 worries that every investor seemed to have about any new venture that came to them. And really it's addressing these worries that the first step, go back in reframing the opportunity as a business, figuring out the biggest commercial risks, and then addressing them. And it's this addressing them which is the first accessible step in developing your technology as a commercial proposition. So, moving on. Like all good business schools, we like 2x2 framework. Some of you may have seen this before, but anybody from outside the school probably wouldn't have done. And this framework then develops as what are the issues with the market and what are the issues with the industry. And these happen at two different levels, at the very macro secondary level and at the micro level. But don't worry about that. I'll go on and explain. But essentially, there are 4 questions around the venture that every investor will worry about. And this is the lens through which they'll be doing their initial assessment of any opportunity. The first comes down to market attractiveness. They're going to be wondering about the size of the market. They're going to be worrying about the current growth of the market, but most of all, they're going to be worrying about the future growth. What are the underlying trends that are that make this a great opportunity in the future? One that shows that you're ahead of the curve and that you are somehow creating a venture that couldn't have succeeded 5 years ago, wasn't needed 5 years ago, but is now. And it's these underlying trends that every investor is looking for. Essentially, if a business has been possible for the last 5 years, nothing has changed, then the chances are that either it's been done before and it's failed, or it hasn't been done before and there's a very good reason why it hasn't been done before. And it boils down into 2 major questions, one of which is, what's the total addressable market? Is it a big enough opportunity to warrant the development costs and time that's going to go into it? And the second is the why now question. Why hasn't this been done before? And you have to be able to answer those questions. The second comes down to this sort of micro level. If the market attractiveness overall is at the macro, then the individuals and will anybody actually want this at a micro level is the second question you ask. And if when up on stage somebody asks you, well, what do investors think of this? What do your licensees think of this? What do the healthcare providers think of this? Or what do the end users think? And you say, well, I don't know, it's too early, I haven't asked them that yet. You're likely to be booed off stage by them anyway. They'll dismiss you. The whole point here is get out of the building and start asking some of these people, because otherwise you'll be living in a fool's paradise. You'll be molding the world to your heart's desire. You really won't be out there testing some of the assumptions that you're making about your customers and your end users. So in the immortal words of Steve Blank, who is one of the authors of the Lean model, get the hell out of the building and start talking to you, because this is a question you're going to be asked. Fortunately, within universities, there are plenty of people to ask. So, there's no shortage. It isn't so much getting the hell out of the building, it's getting the hell out of the laboratory or into somebody else's domain. The third comes down to, if you like, the value capture strategy rather than a value creation strategy. People are going to be saying, so how much is it going to cost? What is the time to launch? What are the unit economics of this thing? Are the 5 forces favorable? Look up, if you're not familiar with it, Porter's 5 forces, one of the most common frameworks in management theory. And here we're saying, all right, it may be that somebody really loves this, fantastic potential in the market, but are you going to be the one who's going to make the money out of it? Are there people who might be your suppliers or your distributors and the manufacturers, and actually they hold so much market power that they're going to squeeze all the margin and leave absolutely nothing for you? Can you set out the value chain, all the individuals who have to be in line from beginning to end to deliver this to the end user, and can you show that you are going to be the one commanding the profit, not them? Can you show that you have a rough understanding of how much it's going to cost to take to market, and that is going to result in sufficient return for your investors? You're not going to spend £5 million creating a business that at the end of the day is only worth £3 million. So there's this big question: what's the margin? What's the profit likely to be? And then in the fourth domain, finally, you've got this whole idea of competitive advantage. You can, and many people do, create businesses that look wonderful on paper, but 2-3 years down the line, other people cotton on, other people see what you're doing, because what you're doing is really visible, obviously, because you're in the market. And they say, well, that's great, thank you for showing us the way, thank you for showing us the future, we think we'll do that. And they take over from you. And clearly a part of the venture, the value capture strategy, is to put hurdles in the way of your competition, your potential competition. One of the most depressing things I ever say to an entrepreneur is, please explain to me why you're not simply doing market research for your competitors. Can you build some sort of sustainable competitive advantage? What constitutes sustainable competitive advantage in this arena? Is it a brand? Is it a sticky end user customer base? Is it patents? What is it that you think you can argue is going to result in you having a kind of monopoly here when you finally produced and shown the success of your product? So we say, why won't Google kill you? But for Google, here you can put Johnson & Johnson, you can put GSK, you can put any number of other companies that frankly you think should be doing this, but aren't at the moment. And then a little bit trickier here, you've got the team domains. We've done the product domains, those 4, and then somehow or another you have to communicate this. You have to communicate that your team has the vision of what the product's going to be and the appetite for risk. You may not be able to show that at this moment, but you will be able to demonstrate it by the pains and the lengths that you go through in developing the idea from where it is now to the point at which you showed the judges. What work have you done on this? What commitment have you shown to it? The second is, and I touched on this a little bit earlier, if you are going to present a team of pure technology scientists, then it's going to be pretty difficult to demonstrate that your team has got the ability to execute on the key success factors in the future. The key success factors in the future will not only be the technology. The key success factors in the future are going to be early stage marketing. They could be engineering, they could be coding, they could be brand building. But if you're arguing that the way you're going to stay ahead in the future is by doing certain activities, then kind of got to show that either you have those, or you have some of those capabilities on board, or that you show that you don't, but you know you're going to have to get them, and you've got budget put aside for recruiting this top talent. And finally, and again, you can begin to develop this during the course of the challenge. Have you got the right connections? Are you talking to the right people? You're going to be dependent on other people up and down the value chain to actually make this thing happen. And during the course of this challenge, I think what you need to show is that even if you haven't got these connections now, you have the ability to hustle, you have the ability to reach out, you have the ability to get meetings with, to develop mutual understanding and trust with some of the people who you're actually going to need when it comes to further development of this product. So taken together, you've got those 4, the ones I spoke earlier, and then you've got these 3. 4 relate essentially to the venture itself, the song, and these 3, I always say, relate to the people who are going to make it happen, the singers. So 3 singers, 4 to do with the song, and that combined may sound scary to somebody who's never seen it before, but actually should be quite reassuring to you, because they are saying that these are the only 7 things you really have to worry about, because they are the only 7 things that that the investors are on the mind of the investors when they're judging your proposal, your pitch. So moving on to my last slide is really the framework here helps you not to scare you, but to anticipate and therefore prepare for the questions that are in the heads or come out of the mouths of the judges on the final day. And how it does this is by forcing you to identify the weaknesses in your business model. I mean, there are way too many people who believe that they have this perfect, this wonderfully perfect formed technology, and they don't want to question it. I've worked with hundreds of scientists, and it seems to be a common theme that they don't want to open their ideas to challenge. Sometimes it's because they think that people might steal them, but usually that's just a disguise for wanting to stay inside the laboratory and not be challenged in any way. You've got to actually get out there and open up and somehow seek out this disquieting evidence, people who actually know the industry, know the market, and invite them to tell you how it really is. So that's a negative. More constructively, this points to the kind of evidence you're going to need to collect for a persuasive case, a persuasive argument. It helps you to build your case by anticipating the questions you'll be asked. It helps you to construct a good proof of concept strategy and to define any minimum viable product that you need to build, because proof of concept, prototypes, MVPs are simply a means to an end. They're simply an experiment. They're simply a way of gathering evidence that can build and examine your business case. And once you know where the uncertainties are, then you go back and say, okay, I have to address this. I have to address this worry. How am I going to do it? And how you're going to do it is with some sort of early stage proof of concept. I think it channels your scarce resources to do the right things. Very often, the right thing to do now, if you're going to be serious about this as a business, is not going to be doing more science. It's going to be thinking about this from a business perspective and allow the market actually to define your next actions. Obliquely, the people who you're going to go out there and ask may even become your potential partners. If you develop out there a set of links and find a set of people who like you and like what you're doing, they may very well want to stay involved. They may very well be the people who you reach out to at the next stage to actually help you to achieve these targets. And finally, it generates insights. Every time you talk to anybody, you'll exchange information and you'll receive information, and that information that you receive will help you to iterate towards a better product. Or a better application for the technology that you have, or a different end user, or a different business model, and that's really what you should be open to. What you have at the moment may feel perfect, but boy, let it meet the market, let it meet the industry, and you will soon find that there are better ideas out there that you may want to change the business model or the precise application or market for your technology. We say that ventures evolve conversation by conversation. So my bottom line here is you're starting off, many of you, with the laboratory as your world. What this exercise, what this challenge enables you to do is to think the other way around, which is the world as your laboratory, because the world is going to be the one that is going to be where your innovations are implemented. So even though it starts off in your laboratory, it ends up in the world. So no better time than now, and the use of this challenge is actually to start making that mindset change. So thank you. I hope that's some sort of help, but there's the book there, New Business Road Test. I don't get royalties. It's a great book, great insights, and do examine it, because we think it's the way that the world thinks.
Perfect. Thank you very much. So we're gonna move now to the final part. So we are we are here. We also have like some minutes more than schedule. If you have any question whatsoever on the ELF-Tech challenge, on how you should, generate your idea or something more, either specific or broad, or a broad question, we're happy to take it. Obviously, you can always ask us, like reach us at the official email address that you can find on the website, and it's the ELF-Tech challenge at london.edu. So we are also happy to answer any questions you may have you might have in the future. Just feel free to reach us anytime. Yes. Let's wait a couple of moments to see.
Yeah, sure.
Ask us questions.
In terms of voice, can I allow everyone to speak up?
Yeah, I think you can. It's probably participants.
And I think there's a way I can allow everyone to. I'm just gonna do this manually.
Wow, nobody can talk. Cacophony. Doesn't mean they all have to talk.
I know it.
Strangely, I
actually think you
muted them all.
Yes.
Oh.
Unmute.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
So any questions? Do feel free, if you have any, to raise your hand. Otherwise, I say we probably stunned you into silence.
Wait.
Can I ask a question, if you hear me? Hello?
Hello?
Yeah,
Hello?
we can hear you.
Hi. Good. So I have a question. If the technical feasibility is based on something that is IP sensitive at the moment, because the patent is just in the process of being, patent application has been prepared, how do you think I should address this part of the application?
Okay, I mean, generally, there's two parts of this. We don't want any confidential information on how it works, but the general rule, so anything you send to us should be non-confidential. And indeed, the same thing goes when you're testing the market, when you're getting out and asking users. But I think this is generally overplayed as a concern. Because usually you're explaining what it does rather than how it does it. And it's really that we want you to explain.
Okay.
We don't need you, and in fact users don't need you to explain intricacies of exactly how it works. In fact, very often that'll bore them and they won't understand it anyway. What they do need to do is to understand what it does. And so this whole concept of black boxing it, where you're talking about the inputs are, what the outputs are, rather than what actually works and how it does it, is all we need, and is all that you generally have to talk about. Obviously, when we're looking at the application, we're going to be wanting to see that, who is it who's proposing this? Because if you're proposing something that looks really magical inside that black box, we're going to want some assurance that this actually exists and scientific credibility in having proposed it in the first place. But you're really, at that you're betting on your own reputation and integrity. But no, we don't need to see have a detailed understanding of the technology itself.
Thank you.
May I ask a question?
Yeah, there's some scraping going on in the background, so if you to quieten yourself, to mute yourself if you've got a lot of background noise. Sounds like somebody's eating something. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, my family being very loud. May I ask a question? It's a very short.
Yes, carry on.
Yeah, this person who is associated with any institute, university, does it have to be a part of the core team? I mean, or he can be an employee, sort of. By core team, I mean, if there's a core team of a startup, you know, those who have equity and will have equity, and we also have few people who are students or postgrads.
Yep.
They are not members of the core team. They wouldn't have equity, but they are kind of essential part of the team anyway. But they sort of get salary because they're employees. So is it qualify for the or not?
I think the answer is yes, though I think we'd also look very carefully at this, because anybody who is utterly critical to your team, and in the early stage, I think that you know those driving the technology. I mean, in all the spin-outs that I've been involved with, and that's quite a few, that those who are driving the underlying technology, you know, investors probably want to see them motivated and sticking to the company by more than just being an employee. The key personnel need to be tied in somehow. So though you aren't disqualified, then it might make the judges question the real commitment of some of the key members.
I see. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, just to the same question, because I had, so the idea should really come from a student or postgrad.
Yeah, we want this to be, I think we want this to be a technology in which there has been some investment already, so that you know, a lot of the key technical unknowns have been addressed, but not the key commercial unknowns.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we also have one question about the theme, the digital technology in healthcare. So basically, we want this sort of idea you propose to somehow related to digital technology. Any sort of relation with digitalization would be fine, because you know, as I said before, digitalization is a big trend, and we want to kind of direct the attention of the participants towards that space.
I mean, it's fair to say sometimes what it doesn't include. So obviously it doesn't include pharma, because that's clearly very bio. You know, but it does include analog devices and new conceptions of analog devices that are, you know, somehow being hooked up to digital technology, either because of the data that they collect or the you know, the way in which they're monitored.
Right. And then on the question on the presentation, so we will not send you the presentation to your email address individually, but we will upload the presentation on the website. I think between our, you know, today or tomorrow at the latest. So you will be able to find it in the home page of the EFTech Challenge website.
And we have already posted a registration link on our website, and we definitely encourage everyone to register if you haven't done it yet, because we're going to send out more follow-up information, and it would be great if you just to stay in loop. But if you need anyone from, for example, business backgrounds, we can also help you to connect with those people. I personally know a couple of like MBB consultants already willing to join this competition, partner up with people with scientific backgrounds. So yeah, if you have that sort of need, definitely register on our website.
Let us know. Right. Also helps, like, so you don't have to go and check the website every day, you know, to see if there are new information, because we will send all of them by email to once you register.
Okay. Any further questions?
Perfect.
So I think we can wrap up here. Thank you so much for joining our webinar. Thank you, Jeff. So we hope to see all of your applications very soon.
Yeah, stay tuned.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And have a nice day, evening, morning, depending where you are.
Okay. Take care. Goodbye.
Bye.